Well, we all have them in our lives. And at worst, they will keep us from our destiny. And at best, they will steal our joy and keep us guessing about ourselves and about what we're doing and our effort and our goals and our dreams at every step. The dangers of toxic people. That's the topic of today's episode of the Steve Freeman Podcast.
You're listening to the Steve Freeman Podcast, the real, raw truth about the pursuit of success in music, business, and life. Here's your host, hit songwriter, multi-platinum selling producer, and serial entrepreneur, Steve Freeman.
One of the best podcasts out there, a real-world, common-sense look at the business. Highly recommend to anyone that has the desire to succeed. Titled Unabashed, rated 5 stars from Music Mind Master on Apple Podcast and iTunes. Please don't forget, if you're listening to the podcast right now, open up your little app and leave us a 5-star rating and a written review on Apple Podcast or iTunes. We greatly appreciate it. We are growing by leaps and bounds, and that is all thanks to you guys. But what really helps us inside that Apple Podcasts algorithm and the iTunes algorithm is when you leave us those 5 stars and you leave a written review. So just like Music Mind Master, leave us a 5-star rating and a written review, and we greatly appreciate it. Also, I want to remind you, do not forget, new merch is available right now in the Steve Freeman Podcast merch store. Go to thestevefreeman.com and click on shop or store. I don't remember what it says, but one of those, and check out the all new line of Steve Freeman No Bullshit podcast merch. We've got t-shirts, tank tops, hats, coffee mugs, everything. If you're watching the video version, you're seeing it on the screen right now. Those of you watching the video or the audio, listening to the audio version, you're not getting this cool feature. So be sure and check that out. Go to thestevefreeman.com and you can find everything you need to know about the merch store right there. I would certainly and greatly appreciate it. Welcome to a new episode. It is great to have you here. Today, I want to talk about toxic people. And I want to come at this from maybe an area that you guys have not thought about before, because in all honesty, I think a lot of people deal with having toxic people in their life because you may not quite know that they are toxic. Now, you may be saying, Steve, what do you mean by that? I think many of you have people surrounding you right now that you think are friends, that you think are people that have your best interest at heart, that don't, that are actually toxic people. So what I wanted to go over today was a list of 12 different ways, 12 different indicators that you can identify somebody in your life as being a toxic person. Because let me tell you, there is nothing worse than having toxic people around you, because they just ooze that toxicity off of them. And it falls over onto you, and it starts to become a weight and a burden on you. And some of these different ways, I think when you start to think about the people that are in your immediate circle, and you start to apply some of these identifiers, you're going to notice pretty quick exactly what I'm talking about. The thing that surprises me a lot is when I actually went through this list and I was looking for myself, I actually identified several people in my life that I do consider are toxic. And then it's on me to start weeding those people out of my life. Now, I'm not saying that these people aren't good people. And a lot of times they don't even know that they're being toxic. They don't know that they are preventing you or keeping you from your destiny. We all have the goals we're trying to achieve. It's almost impossible, though, to achieve those goals whenever you have people around you that subconsciously or not are toxic to your environment. There are also a lot of people that are very well aware that they are toxic, but they're also manipulative. And that's one of the ways that we're going to talk about here in a second. So I want to run down this list because I think this is so important. I get so many messages and emails from you guys. And when you give me the descriptions of the things that you're doing, and they're not turning into the results that you should be seeing, if in fact what you're telling me is the truth, I inevitably always start to come back to, okay, who is in your circle? Because something's not working right. And we've talked before about success in anything is basically like a very expensive, fine-tuned watch. There are a lot of different gears that have to be turning, and they all have to be turning simultaneously for things to move forward and to progress and to work the way that they're supposed to work for you to actually achieve these goals. If one piece of that watch, if one gear in that watch is not turning, the whole thing shuts down. So when I see and hear from so many of you that I look at and I'm like, okay, you're doing that right. That's exactly what you're supposed to be doing there. Okay, you're doing that. Perfect. And it's still not working. This is where it leads me back to. It leads me back to there is a gear not turning. And more times than not, when I end up speaking with you guys individually and directly, whether it's on a one-on-one strategy call or something like that, or even friends of mine that I try to help from time to time, it always comes back to a person that is in their life that is actually not adding value, but is actually being toxic. So let's run down these 12 ways of identifying toxic people in your life and the kind of the traits of these toxic people. Number one, they'll keep you guessing about which version of them you're getting. Now, how does that start to resonate with anybody at all? They'll be completely lovely one day, and the next you'll be wondering what you've done to upset them. I see this more often than not. I have relationships and have had relationships with people in the past where we have a great working relationship. Even at some point, I would think that I could call them friend. And then all of a sudden, it just stops. No text messages back and forth, no calls. And it does exactly what this point is saying. And that is they keep me guessing about which version of themselves I'm going to get. That is point number one, identifier number one of how to tell if somebody is toxic in your environment or toxic to the efforts that you're trying to put out there. Can you look around your circle of people and realize, you know what, there are these 2 or 3, 4 people. Maybe sometimes it's even just one person. And you know what? This can be a family member. This can be a friend. This can be a coworker. It can be a frequent collaborator. You just never quite know what version of them that you're going to get. And they keep you guessing about who they really are because your interactions with them and your experience with them vary depending on their mood or your mood or who's doing what at the moment. Very important to think about. Number 2, they will manipulate. How many people listening to this or watching this right now willingly put yourself into situations with people that you know are manipulating them? If you feel as though you're the only one contributing to the relationship, now I see this one a lot. You feel like you are putting in all the work, but there are no fruits. You're planting all the seeds, but nothing's growing. I think this is so prevalent in the entertainment business because, like I've said many, many times, it's a me business. It is not a we business. Toxic people have a way of sending out the vibe that you owe them something. And they also have a way of taking from you or doing something that hurts you, then maintaining they were doing it for you all along. Now, how many times I know situations like this in my life right now? I can look back over the years. I've gotten pretty good at seeing through people. I'm a really good see-through people person. My radar is up, active, and it functions very, very well. But manipulation is something that everybody in this business is going to go through because it is a me business. People try to manipulate you. And then they go even further, which is even more toxic to the relationship, is they try to convince you that they're being the way that they're being for you and that somehow this is all about you when we all know that it's really not. I know as I'm reading these things off, I know you guys are picturing people in your own life and it's not healthy. It is actually preventing you from getting where you want to go. Number 3, they won't own their own feelings. Rather than owning their own feelings, they'll act as though the feelings are yours. It's called projection, as in projecting their feelings and thoughts onto you. For example, someone who is angry but won't take responsibility for it might accuse you of being angry with them, and then they're just reacting to you. They won't own their own feelings. I think as we go through this, we're probably adding more and more people to your roster of people that you're picturing in your mind. And you're seeing that all these people around you are doing these things. Number 4, they'll make you prove yourself to them. Now, this one is a little bit more on the nose, and this is one you can probably see coming, but a lot of the time, whenever, and I've done this in my own life, guys, I'm not preaching at you. I am applying this to my own life. I can look back over the years and over the relationships and quote unquote friendships that I could swear that I've had. I can see where people have regularly put me in a position to where I had to choose between them and something else. And because of the friendship, because they may be doing this for you, then you feel automatically obligated to choose them, their line of thinking, what they think you should be doing. And all of that is a form of trying to make you prove yourself to them, constantly proving your loyalty, constantly making you approve their love, constantly proving yourself. And that in itself is a job. Being around somebody like that is it's toxic. That's what we're talking about. But it's a full-time fucking job. Who wants that job? It's very taxing on you. So be very wary of people that try to constantly make you prove themselves to you. That's indicator number 4. Number 5 is a big one. Number 5, they never apologize. They'll lie before they ever apologize, just so there's no point to arguing. They'll twist the story, change the way it happened, and retell it so convincingly that they'll believe their own nonsense. This something else, by the time you get to number 5, also sounds a lot like narcissism. And toxic people technically and typically are narcissistic. How's that for a big word, folks? Narcissistic. And I didn't even stumble over it. So 2 points for me. But these people never apologize. Again, when they are in the wrong, they make you feel like it's your fault. And then they won't apologize for it. Instead of apologizing, going back to point number 4, they make you prove yourself to them. See how one-sided this relationship is? It becomes all about these people and propping these people up. Again, that's a full-time job. Number 6, they'll be in a crisis, but they'll never, ever share your joy. How many times have you heard that? There are people in our lives that are more than willing to help drag us down. And when we're not feeling right, we're not feeling good, we're not feeling successful, when we're at the bottom of the heap, they will jump right in. And they will share your pity party, and they will get you fired up. They will keep you angry. They will keep you upset. They are more than willing to do that. But when the tide turns and positive things start to happen in your life, in your career, in your surroundings, if it doesn't directly reflect on them and elevate them as well, they do not share in your joy. They'll go even further and find reasons your good news isn't good news. How many of you, I know you're picturing people right now. The classic about a promotion. The money isn't that great for the amount of work you'll be doing. Let's take it to our business. Now, it's a publishing deal, but I mean, it's not with one of the major publishing deals. Oh, you signed a record? Yeah, they don't have any big artist on their record, on their label. What makes you think they're going to, be any help for you? Or, they just can't be happy for you. I had so many people like this in my life, and I can't tell you the number of times and the number of people, and I'm talking very popular people in the music industry right now, huge hit songwriters that have written countless number ones over the last 2-3 years that I helped along the way, that I found at the infancy of their career, and that I helped along the way that are this way right here. When I was helping them, they were all about me. But when I helped get them where they wanted to go, they forgot all about me. So they were more than willing to let me struggle to help them. And when things weren't good, they were right there. But man, when things got good, they did not want to share in the joy. Even right now, the success of the podcast and the artist agency and everything that we have going on, I don't hear from them. Matter of fact, one of my closest friends for many years is one of the most successful songwriters in Nashville right now and has been for the last couple of years. I haven't heard from that motherfucker in 5 years until the other day he wanted to disagree with something that I posted on Facebook. So he was willing to get on my Facebook page and comment on something that he wanted to disagree with or tell me that I was wrong with. Haven't received a text message, email, phone call from this idiot in over 5 years. And we were very close friends. That's exactly what I'm talking about. He sees all the posts. He sees everything that's going on. He sees the success stories. Not a congratulations, Steve, or man, I'm so happy for you. That's awesome. None of that. He just wants to hop in the mud and try to drag me down. So this is what I'm talking about. I think these are very important. Meanwhile, I cut that guy off many years ago. And I sent him an email when I did it. And I said, we're done. I don't care if I ever hear from you again. You shit on our friendship. I thought this and I thought that and then nothing. So it's important as you start to realize and recognize these tendencies and traits inside these toxic people and what they are and what they can do to you and what they mean to your success and the journey that you're on. You have to root these people out at all costs. At all costs, get rid of toxic people in your life. How about number 7? They'll leave a conversation unfinished and then they'll go offline. I see this all the time. They won't pick up their phone. They won't answer texts or emails. And in between rounds of their voicemail messages, you may find yourself playing the conversation or argument over and over in your head, guessing about the status of the relationship, wondering what you've done to upset them or whether they're dead or alive or just ignoring you, which can sometimes feel just about the same. People who care about you won't let you go on feeling rubbish without attempting to sort it out. That doesn't mean you'll sort it out all the time, but at least they'll try. Take it as a sign of their investment in the relationship with you, that if they leave you, quote unquote, out there for lengthy sessions or lengthy periods of time, they are not in this with you. They are toxic to you. It's a toxic relationship and they are a toxic person. Cut them out immediately. Number 8, they'll use non-toxic words with a toxic tone. This message, the message might be innocent enough, but the tone conveys so much more. Something like, what did you do today? Can mean different things depending on the way it's said. It could mean anything from, so I bet you did nothing as usual, to I'm sure your day was better than mine. Mine was awful, just awful, and you didn't even notice enough to ask. Again, another form of manipulation. It's about turning everything around to them and constantly having to prop them up and make them feel good about themselves. As you start to think about these identifiers, how many of these people that you're thinking about, that you're picturing in your mind right now, that do these things to you and make you feel this way, how many times can you remember in the past that they've propped you up? I left a significant pause there because I would imagine that most of you can't think of a single time that the people that are fitting these traits are actually guilty of propping you up, of trying to make you feel better. Because it's all about these people. Toxic people are all about tearing down. They're not about building. They're not about building up. They're not about support. They're about putting you in a position of feeling guilty so that you prop them up, that you support them, that you keep them going. And that's just too much for one person. You do not have the emotional stamina or the physical stamina to prop up somebody else full time. It's hard enough keeping ourselves going. It's hard enough keeping ourselves motivated and driven to accomplish the things we want to accomplish on a day-to-day basis, let alone having somebody else that we then assume that responsibility for. Point number 9, they'll bring irrelevant detail into a conversation. When you're trying to resolve something important to you, toxic people will bring in irrelevant details from 5 arguments ago. The problem with this is that before you know it, you're arguing about something you did 6 months ago, still defending yourself rather than dealing with the issue at hand. Somehow, it just always seems to end up about what you've done to them. Again, it's selfish. Are you starting to see that? Toxic people are very selfish. It is all about me, and what you haven't done to make me feel better. Point number 10, they'll make it about the way you're talking rather than what you're talking about. You might be trying to resolve an issue or get clarification, and before you know it, the conversation/argument has moved away from the issue that was important to you and onto the manner in which you talked about it, whether there is an issue with your manner or not. You'll find yourself defending your tone, your gestures, your choice of words, or the way your belly moves when you breathe. It doesn't even need to make sense. Meanwhile, your initial need is, well, gone on the pile of unfinished conversations that seems to grow bigger and bigger and bigger by the day. These are some really good points. I'm going to give you the link. I'll put the link to this down in the show notes. When I found this, I just thought, man, this is so interesting. This is so helpful. Again, because I think so many of you are not reaching your potential or are not reaching your goals, not because of the things that you're not doing properly or not doing at all. I think many of you have the variations of trying to do everything or a little bit of everything as much as you can. I think you guys are surrounded in the wrong circle. I think you've got toxic people around you. Point number 11, they exaggerate. They use terms like you always or you never. They go to extremes. It's hard to defend yourself against this form of manipulation because toxic people have a way of drawing on the one time you didn't or the one time you did as evidence of your shortcomings all the time. But don't buy into the argument. You won't win. And guess what, folks? You don't need to. It's like even myself, as I read these and I look at these, which I've read them probably 12 times before I hit record on the podcast and kind of been studying them because it's helpful to me. I picture 3, 4, 5 people in my life and in that are surrounding my career right now that fit every single one of these. And the exaggeration is a big thing. They do use those terms. You always, you never, or every single time. It's all meant to manipulate you and make you feel guilty. So watch for those exaggerations. That is a true indicator of a very toxic person. And number 12, we get to the last one. They're judgmental. We all get it wrong sometimes, but toxic people will make sure you know it. They'll judge you and take a swipe at your self-esteem, suggesting that you're less than because you made a mistake. We're all allowed to get it wrong every now and then. But unless we've done something that affects them, nobody has the right to stand in judgment. Do you see how all 12 of these things really fit together? I want to go back over them again. But this is, guys, I hope you're listening because this is so important. 1, they'll keep you guessing about which version of them that you're actually getting. Number 2, they'll manipulate. Number 3, they won't own their own feelings. They project onto you. They'll make you prove yourself to them over and over and over again. Number 5, they never apologize. Number 6, they'll be there in crisis, but they'll never share in your joy. So they're there when you're down, but they're not there when you're up. Because when you're up, it's keeping them down and somehow you're to blame. Somehow your success is always the cause of their failure. Number 7, they'll leave a conversation unfinished and then they'll go offline. They'll ghost you. They make you feel like shit and then they move on because that puts you in a position exactly where they want you. They want you down so that props them up. Number 8, they'll use non-toxic words with a toxic tone. Number 9, they'll bring irrelevant detail into a conversation, maybe arguments or something that happened 9, 10, 11, 12 months ago, 5 years ago, that aren't relevant on what's happening today, but they bring it up, again, to suppress you and keep you down. Number 10, they'll make it about the way you're talking rather than what you're talking about. They attack your tone. Anytime you talk about being positive or you try to spin something in a positive forward momentum direction, they're going to try to yank you back as quick as humanly possible. Misery loves company, and toxic people are miserable, but they would rather you be miserable with them than to be happy with you in success. Number 11, they'll exaggerate. They'll use terms like sometimes, or not sometimes, but always, you never, every time. Watch for those words. Number 12, they're judgmental. And in this business, everybody sits in judgment, whether it's at a publishing company or a record label, whether it's somebody watching your YouTube videos. And I've always referred to a lot of like the comments and things in YouTube videos that I've done or that other people have done as the comment section is always toxic. And you can see that because people want to point out one thing, two things, three things. You may do let's take it in both contexts. You write a 3.5-minute song, somebody's going to say, I don't like the first half of the second verse. So therefore, in their mind, the whole thing's shit. They just are tearing the whole thing down. They're tearing all 4 minutes down because of 20 seconds that they didn't prefer. Those of you that are content creators creating YouTube videos and content for Instagram and all other places, look at the comments on that stuff. Out of a 20, 30-minute video, people would rather get on YouTube and make a negative comment about one thing you said or try to correct something you said or you misspoke here. That's judgmental. So out of 30 minutes worth of content, you couldn't find anything in the 29 minutes and 45 seconds that you liked to make a positive comment. No, you got to find that 15 seconds you didn't like, and that's what you're going to spend the next 15 minutes writing out a YouTube comment to post something negative. I wanted to talk about this today because, again, like I said, I see so many of you doing things the right way, but not quite achieving the results that you really want. And I honestly do believe that in those cases, many of you are being prevented from moving forward because you have toxic people around you that are like balls around your ankles, shackles. Or you're trying to be that hot air balloon and you have these people that are ropes that keep you tethered to the ground because they use one or a combination of more than one or all of these identifiers to keep you tethered to the ground because they have not and are not willing to do the things that it requires for them to see the success they want to see. They find more enjoyment and more gratification of holding you back than even seeing themselves move forward. I've had people like that in and out of my life, in and out of my career, as long as I've been in this business. I think a lot of it is born out of competitiveness, one-upsmanship. There are just some people that would rather be miserable than be happy. I firmly believe that. I think there are, and I have people like this in my family. They just would rather be negative and focus on the negative things. There's always a cloud following them. And here's the thing, and here's what I really want to focus on, and I'm sorry that it's taken 32 minutes and 16 seconds to get to this part of it. The danger of this is not that it ultimately keeps you from your goals, which is huge. But what ultimately keeps you from achieving those things is because the longer you allow these people in your life, the longer you surround yourself with these people, the more they ooze off of them and onto you. And then before you know it, you start becoming a toxic person as well. Before you know it, you start focusing on the negative. You approach every new opportunity and new situation with a negative spirit and a negative heart instead of that optimistic look and approach that you used to have to things. You used to find the positive in things. Now you start to look at them with, well, what if it doesn't work? Well, what if this doesn't? And guys, I am just as guilty about this because I've been jaded by this business. I tell you guys the 100% truth, but honestly, the truth of everything that I try to help you guys with and talk with you about, the truth in this business is very and can be very disappointing. It can be very discouraging. So it's hard to get up every day and put on this suit of armor that you need to be in this business to protect you from all of these different people. Carrying that weight of that armor around gets very old. It wears you down. But what I also think it does is that weight makes you susceptible. And there are more than enough people that are out there in your family, your circle of friends, that are willing to help burden that with you. They don't want to take it off of you. They are more than willing, though, to help you carry it as long as they don't help you take it off. And those are the people you've got to be worried about. You cannot let them start framing your mindset the way that they do because that is their goal. You're out here trying to accomplish all these things and be successful and accomplish these goals and do more, be more. You're trying out here to do all that. What you've got to understand about toxic people is their objective, their goal, Their idea of quote unquote making it, if you will, is to keep you back because they are happy when you are sad. They are happy and feel like they've accomplished something when you are at your worst. And to think that they contributed to that is what they get off on. I see this everywhere. I see it happening in my kids' lives with friends that they're friends with. I see the manipulation. I see the thing at one of the points where it was talking about, they will talk, and then ghost. Because then it leaves that person going, what did I do? Which is exactly where they want you. Toxic people are dangerous, not just because they'll keep you from your goals. They are dangerous because if you're not careful, they'll make you just like them because they will beat you down so much. And they will lower your immune system so much to where they actually infect you and you become a toxic person yourself. You don't want to be a toxic person. You never set out to be a toxic person. But when you surround yourself with them, they will turn you into one of their own. They're like fucking zombies. It's like watching The Walking Dead. Get bit by a toxic person, you will become toxic. It's just too easy at times to remove those people from your life. Remove those people from your circle at all costs. I know that a lot of you are in situations that would make it difficult to remove toxic people from your life. You got to do it. If you don't remove these people from your life, you will live a toxic life. You will have a toxic career because it follows you everywhere. Just like that suit of armor, those people get up and put on a suit of toxicness. Toxicity, I was probably the right term there. But they put on that suit, and their goal is to get out and touch and infect as many people as they possibly can. Don't let that be you. It's just not worth it. Guys, thank you for joining me for another episode of the podcast. Don't forget, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcast or iTunes. Spotify is the other big place. We've been growing a lot of listeners on Spotify lately. So even if you're over on Spotify, make sure you subscribe. That way new episodes are downloaded automatically to your smartphone or device every single Monday and Friday when a new episode comes out, 9 a.m. If you like the video versions or maybe you haven't checked out the video versions, you can catch them at noon every Monday and Friday on my Facebook page. That's facebook.com/The Steve Freeman, or on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/The Steve Freeman. All these links can be found in the show notes. So go there if you want to find something. If you want to take my free artist development masterclass, you can do that as well. Go to thestevefreeman.com, sign up. It's right there at the top. It's absolutely free. It's about 4 hours long, and it will get you on the right track. So go check that out. You can also join my email list to where you get little bits and stuff here and there, little advice, what's going on. When you become a member of my inner circle, you can do that right there as well. Don't forget to check out our show sponsors, Performance Inspired Nutrition at pi-nutrition.com. Enter code Steve to get 10% off your order. And check out artistdevelopmentacademy.com. Become an all-access member. Get access to all of our entire library of online courses, plus all the other benefits, and get 30% off your membership when you enter code Steve at checkout. Guys, keep being creative. Keep pressing the boundaries. There's nothing wrong with being independent. See you in the next episode.
Thanks for joining us for the Steve Freeman Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow Steve on social media at The Steve Freeman.